What's going on, everyone? Let us know if the audio's okay. Joe, are you mic'd up, sir?
I think I'm mic'd.
Okay.
Are you getting like the microphone reading? Are we seeing that, hearing that?
I'm seeing it. I want to know if they're hearing it. I'm also testing out how bad our delay is. But what's going on, Ken, Pablo, Slavko, I want to say. Marcus Beasley, welcome. Hang in there for another half a minute or so.
Slavko, wow. Man, that's great. Serbia. Hello back to you.
Hello.
Hey, Ken, what's going on? You know?
Take off this live soon thing. Then I go over here and I pop the lens like this. Bada bing. And then we're in focus. Look at that. Hey, got Quinn in the background staring at us discerningly. It's good stuff.
Discerningly, yeah.
Discerningly.
She's got shades of emotion, you know?
Shades of Emotion.
Yeah.
Should be the name of your next book. Shades of Emotion. Oh my God. What's going on, everyone? Good afternoon if you're here in New York. Hey, Raul. What's going on? Ronald, everybody. Gary. So we were just live on Twitch, literally hanging out. We had no plan of action there.
I don't think we need to tell them that. It was pretty freaking obvious.
But I wanted to do a YouTube stream this time. We did a live Q&A on Instagram last time you were here. I wanted to go on YouTube this time. And I wanted to because you put out so many videos for so long. I just pulled up the Adorama playlist. Just the Adorama playlist. There's 72 videos sitting here in a playlist.
Goodness
That's
me.
how many years you've been across the channel.
All I can do is apologize. You know, that's all I can do. Apologize.
Well, I feel like there's the video and then there's like really what happened and the planning that goes into it, what you thought you were going to do, the things that you were psyched that happened that you weren't expecting and other stuff like that. Director's commentary. I think we both are in the same camp of like being real about it and live, and instead of being a polished, hey, here's something that really isn't happening.
Yeah. That stuff I just can't, when it's canned like that, when it is presented as polished, done deal, no frills, no wayward events, everything was just to a T. You know, when it comes to a photo shoot, you just have to know that's kind of not real.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things out of your control. But I think what you do have control over is how you react to things, your quick thinking, and your pathways to solutions, right? Not just the method of progressive, but like, you know the options and you pick which door to open and jump through, right? And I think there's, and this is kind of queuing it up as if like something always went wrong, but it never is 100% how you expect.
No, there's always vagaries. There's vagaries when it comes to the location, the light, the talent, the scene, the time that you have, the pressure you're under, you know, the budget that you have to negotiate. All that sort of stuff impacts on whatever it is finally results from the shoot, which hopefully is a good photograph. And oftentimes it gets thrown back on your own shoulders in terms of turning on a dime, being improvisational, all that sort of stuff.
And there's also like a pressure of the concept, which I don't think you've ever had an issue with. You've always come to us with like these monster ideas. And I think, you know, it's a safe space. When you go, Seth, I want to take a dead ballerina and stuff her in a dryer. And we go, yeah, go on.
Okay, yeah, and they don't call security immediately. But it's all, you know, it's imagination at play for sure. That particular series, the Point You Mysteries, is a total spoof. You know, I mean, it's absolute spoof city. You know, I get to work with some cool people.
Yep.
You know, not only with the store and the reach of AdoramaTV, but Nick, of course, you know, we dubbed him Nick Knight, but Nick is actually his first name. He's a terrific character actor. You know, I get to work with some very patient, you know, Erica. I mean, Erica, I've stuffed her in a dryer. I've stuffed her in a garbage can. I mean,
yeah, you definitely stuffed in a garbage can like this.
Oh my goodness.
Tell me I have like no good Wi-Fi when we do this beat. Look at this spinning circle of death.
Spinning circle of death. There we go. There she is. There she is.
Stuffed
yeah.
in there, and she's a trooper.
In my defense, that's a brand new garbage can I bought from Amazon, and those are pillows that I bought at Kohl's during that day. So brand new, comfy stuff. I wouldn't stick her in an average New York City well-used garbage can. That would be not smart on anyone's part. But the real New York thing that happened, it's in the video, is a real New York sanitation truck drove by while we were shooting, saw her in the garbage can and said, hey, yeah, we'll take her.
Yeah, that was all pure class for sure.
Yep.
But I think what's interesting is like, if you gave anyone this premise of being like, I want to do dead ballerinas, I don't think you approached it with us like this. You have to build up a track record for people to say okay to funding and putting energy and effort into your psychosis.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, you guys did actually approach me. We've had a long history of teaching together, and when it came back up again, let's put it that way, one thing I said that was very clear was I did not want to go into a studio on Seamless and say something like, let's put the light here, because there's lots and lots of information already available. But if I could teach in context, where my strength is, if I have one, is in storytelling and kind of weaving a narrative into my photographs, even if they're ridiculous and silly, there's some sort of narrative there. So I conceived or came up with the idea of the Point You Mysteries, a murderously infamous, murderous ballerina is offing her competition, and my friend Nick Knight. Now Nick,
who's right here,
is fantastic, and he is actually plays a tough guy in the movies all the time. He's in the John Wick movies.
Yep.
You know, so he is the kind of guy who, like, if you say like, give me that look like you're gonna whack me, you know, Nick can do it because he's a terrific actor, and he's also a very fun guy, good friend on the set. So wonderful, you know. And to me, like, I've been at this a long time, so when I put together a crew like this, it's basically a bunch of people I really like, and we just try to have fun and do some good work.
Oh, I pulled up the wrong video. I tried to pull. Where's the Joe McNally diner? Oh no, Joe McNally laundromat, right?
Oh, laundromat, yeah. The laundromat still remains probably my favorite.
That one was really cool, and that's actually my actual laundromat.
Is it still there? Didn't you say they closed up shop? Or
no, it's still going. The one that was down the, hey, there's us, look at us, and my face.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's the shot where we both, I think, saw it was coming together, which is the shot that really, I feel like, injects this new life into a set. You're a little tired, you lugged all the stuff, things are getting put together, but when you see it like just get over that point of, oh no, it's almost coming together, it's actually coming from here to here, that's a cool moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, Tom Kennedy at the Geographic always used to tell me. He always used to tell me, he said, there's a certain arc to a story. Like, this is not really a story, this is a one night shot, but in the course of doing a story, there's always he referred to it as the tipping point, where the photographer steps forward and is able to take control of the narrative and knows really where they're going. And that's, I think, what Seth is referring to in terms of a single frame relative to this night. Yes, finally, boom, all of a sudden, yes, there was clear direction. The light was migrating in positive ways. We had sorted out a position for the ballerina inside the laundromat or inside the big dryer, you know, and then we just started to have fun. Once you get the hard work, the grist of it done, then, you know, you work on gesture and you work on eliciting something from your actors and actresses and having a good time with it.
Yeah, it's. I think people can wrap their heads around like, oh, I'm gonna put someone in a dryer and then then I have this whole room. But instead of going at face value like some people do, you're going, well, I'm gonna create the space I want. So to me, I always tell people when you work, because I've been on a lot of your sets, I feel like you put in the lights almost as each light is a paintbrush. Like it's another color on the brush, and you're like, I'm gonna put this here, I wanna rake it across here. When you put the lights outside the laundromat on your truck and rip them through the window, it changed everything.
Changed everything.
That was like that was the light setup that was like, whoa. And no one could see that but you, right? And no one sees the light because it's strobe. Like, you're the only one that's really understanding what you're building. You can explain to people that know, but you see it and you know what's gonna happen when you put that light there. And that's kind of like the coolest part. The hard part is relaying it to a crew that's got to work with you.
Well, yeah, and true, and also being in Brooklyn and realizing that I had to double park my truck because we didn't have a permit to put any lights in the sidewalk, and I didn't have security to stand outside and watch them. So what we did was we clamped the light to the roof rack of my Suburban. They were Profoto B4s, so battery units, radio driven. So we hooked up an air remote, a camera. I was able to reach the power packs. The power packs are inside my truck. The cords are run through the window. The window is as close as it can be. The car's running but locked. and the lights are gelled and blasting through the window. And I felt like that would be the key to creating this sort of nighttime environment in New York. Like, yes, there could be police cars out there responding to the murder, and a body is found in the dryer.
Yeah.
mean,
It was just really cool to like watch you work. And then not only that, but you were using like what I call like theater color space. The gels were like very like primary-ish and not just kind of like subtle or like and I feel like that was a testament to you seeing like, oh, the neon sign in the window, oh, the street lights that will be out, or cops outside, or Nick's cop vehicle outside with the red and blue blitzing through. And those are the color palette you were kind of like, that was the color palette. I know English.
Yeah, no, it's good. The thing is, you think a lot on location about what if or as if. Like, what if we did this, or let's put these lights out here as if there's a police car.
There it is.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know, in New York, you can't drop stands with a light without a permit, and that's a whole nother thing you got to go through. So this is a good way around it. Normally people run and gun with people physically holding the lights, but you weren't gonna have someone holding those out in the middle of the night.
It was freezing out
It was pretty rough. I think you saw a giant rat here too.
Yeah, there was a giant rat. I remember, yeah. Yeah, an enormous rat,
Listen,
Yeah. So much fun.
You're not in Connecticut anymore, tough guy.
Yeah, no.
What do you want to tell you?
It's good,
If you guys have any videos of Joe's that you remember and you want us to pull up, please feel free to throw them in the chat. But the Point Your Diaries is probably one of the more current, I'd say, of the Joe McNally repertoire. But I wanted to talk about this one, which I thought was really interesting. So you have a model coming in, and you have a black backdrop. You have a very soft light. This is a me and Daniel's studio, an all-white studio. So you're banging two lights right here into the ceiling, into like a 4 or 6 foot scrim.
Exactly.
What I thought was really interesting was the choice you made here, where usually when someone's wearing what she was wearing, which was all black, against black, the first instincts most photographers have is rip a rim light, rip a hair light, rip something to like kind of halo and edge them out off of the background. But instead, you decided to go with the black, meld to the black. And what that I think did was really make you focus in on your subject as the person. Like, you really are connected to them now. Like, there is no effect of taking them away from the black. Was that always the plan? I mean, it just didn't seem like the obvious choice. How'd you get there?
Yeah, I think it drove forward because of this lady's face. Very beautiful lady.
Yeah.
Simply dressed, elegant with the pearls. And I was just wanted to come up with something lovely. And I wanted to suffuse the light. Suffuse the set with light. So in other words, it wasn't a directed light. And I think, given her hair, given the shape of her face, I think if I had, as you say, rip a rim or something like that, add a tenor with where the overall softness of the shot, the luminous quality of it.
Right.
So hence, major light sources, super bounce, soft, baby light almost, that just drapes on her, and then even more so filled from below. I thought, actually, for a beautiful, slightly older face, it worked really well.
Yeah, it was just really interesting because I remember watching you build this shot. And first of all, if you saw the shot and then you saw the set and you weren't in tune with lighting too much, you would never have thought you needed V-flats, a bounce from underneath, the scrim, the bounce off the ceiling. Like, I don't think people realize how much goes involved, even if it's just one face. You are constantly building and refining and refining. I think you were the one who told me, like, don't stop when you think you got to, like, keep going a little extra.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you're always at. I think you're always at, like, Joe in the throttle section.
Well, the beautiful thing about a lighting array like this is she's just one person, but you could do 5 people in there.
Yeah,
because it's so big and beautiful. It's like, seems like a lot of work, but if you're in a corporate set, a conference room with a somewhat high ceiling, and you want to drop something like this, you could do like 3 people, whatever, a team. You're doing portraits of a law firm or accounting firm or something like that. Corporate portraiture, this light works really well. It's actually quite similar to, in many ways, to V-flat lighting.
Oh, yeah. It's like a book light almost.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is that you get that super soft, but then you get this angelic texture to the hair. you know how like you light the hair sometimes to be like kind of coarse,
Yeah.
and just to see it come up, but here you get that really like soft elegance.
Yep.
And it was just so, I just remember going like, the first thing I probably would have done was throwing a rim light in there, and then I probably would have taken it out after I could have realized why I hated the shot, you know? But you knew the whole time, which I learned a lot watching that set. So I wanted to pull this one up. It's just really cool. Really, really great job.
Well, she was a really neat lady and absolutely lovely to photograph.
Oh man, wow, you guys are going nuts in that chat. You guys all know each other. It's a house party in our chat, Joe.
Geez, are they all in one person's living room, like
I know.
drinking heavily?
Well,
I hope so.
Brad's in Canada. Marcus is a New York City local. Alvin, I'm not sure where you are. Ronald isn't even in this side of the planet. So, hey guys, thanks for joining us, by the way. We're just going to go through some of Joe's videos and talk about what was going on with them. I think one of the ones, not this one yet.
I could tell what Seth's favorites are. Not this one, God. That's
not this one.
Crap.
Oh, so on that same, did I find it? I wanted to pull up the one that you shot right after that, which was this one. And why I'm pulling this one up is because this is where a lot of refinement happened. If you look at what you did to this light, I mean, a grid with a diffuser just enough over a half of the box, because you were seeing things. And a lot of people would have been like, whatever, I'll fix it in post. You know, the highlight on the forehead, I'll frequency separate my brains out, or whatever these kids with the Photoshop are doing these days, you know? What are you looking for?
No, just put some.
Put your foot up?
I'm gonna put my foot up.
Oh, you're getting all...
So I can get kind of comfortable.
You're getting all comfortable here?
You know?
I mean,
but you see, I don't know how to use frequency separation.
Yeah, I don't know either, actually.
So,
yeah.
So I'm going to try to create it on the set as best I can. That's not saying I don't do post-production. I do. In fact, I have images right now being post-produced, retouched, because we did a little fashion thing recently, and skin retouching is way beyond my skill set. I can do certain basics in Capture One. I'm finding Capture One to be super intuitive and kind of dialed into what I sort of need. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to solve it in the camera because that's what I know.
And I mean, you just really leaned on Nick's character and his face. But over here, I remember you were seeing a bit of a hot spot on the forehead, but instead of leaning on makeup or leaning on post editing, you worked the hell out of that key light. I'll never forget the inch, move, inch, driving everyone crazy.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the nature of the set, you know, because, yeah, you said it earlier today, and I often feel that, and I've actually said it, verbalized it to my subjects who are giving me a hard time about how much time this is taking. I'll just say, look, you and I will never be here together again.
Yep.
So why don't we make a little extra effort and come up with something that is memorable, good, reasonable.
I mean, this is straight Godfather.
That's what I was going for, yeah.
A little more open than God.
A little more open. Like Goodfellas light is directly overhead.
Yeah.
Right? The shadows in the eyes, upward tilt to the chin. You know, it's like, you're talking to me?
It's 90% of my repertoire is Goodfellas. And Scorsese.
This is definitely not that. But look, that's classic Nick. He's looking at you like, you're not going to mess with me, right? You know? So, yeah.
Meanwhile, right after that, he gives you a filthy joke.
Yeah. He's hysterical on location. Absolutely hysterical.
It was great. I mean, it was really cool to watch someone not just take a portrait, but refine the light for that portrait. Because and these guys will I always hate that people go like, I'm just gonna go right to Rembrandt lighting. Hey, look at me. And it's like, stop thinking about the lighting pattern you're trying to achieve and start looking at the subject you're trying to portray.
Right. Everything drives from the subject and the story. You know, I rarely do just straight up studio portraiture. Most of the time, for me, it's a face in a place.
Right.
So if it's the shoemaker, he's in his shop, or whatever it might be. You're trying to tell a story. The portrait is important, but so is the context of the environment. So hence composition, lighting. I always say lighting gives your viewer a psychological roadmap to the photograph.
Oh, that's good.
You know, say you are photographing a shoemaker in his or her shop, right? So you light the shoemaker, but you also accent light the rest of the shop to kind of bring the luxury quality of, you know, like the rich tonalities of leather, the old polish and stuff like that. Those are environments that deserve your attention it enhances the story you're trying to tell to someone who's looking at your picture who will never visit that shop. You're trying to viscerally convey to them what it feels like to be there.
Yeah, you're literally bringing them there. And I always tell them that like the shot is a language. Everything you're choosing in that frame is a word in a sentence. You know, make it say what you're trying to get it to say. Get that across. You know.
Yep.
Speaking of environmental portraits, I wanted to bring up this one. This is a super popular one of yours, and I remember this one because Dan was trying to get you to go one way and do something, and then you said like, honestly, I would just do it like this, and then Dan was like, well, then go do whatever you're gonna do, and you did, and you shot into the windows at our studio for the environment. You used our environment. You weren't trying to fight the windows. You started using them, and we fight the windows every time we shoot because it's just a daylight studio, and we're trying to use strobe. But 3 models in different zones, right? And look at this young dapper Daniel. Look at this go-getter.
Daniel is the best. You know, I mean, he's just like, he sits there quietly on the set. Well, yeah. But he never like lords it over anyone. The simple fact that he knows more than you do. You know? And you know that. But he's always kind of very diplomatic. Well, you know, yeah, maybe you could try it this way, you know.
Well, you know what he's doing, right? He's lifting tricks off you. He just doesn't tell you. He's like, yeah, I know what I would do, but I'm going to steal that and pretend it's mine. I love you, Dan. I'm just kidding. But what was really cool here was watching you evolve it. And I mean, all 3 of us have shot in this space a ton, but you worked with the windows to the background, but on the sides you threw speed lights, I believe, right?
I think
on
so.
either side. Yeah. Are there B1s? And you just kept on working, sculpting the light for the foreground while keeping your exposure for the background.
Yeah, no, isolating light, you know, and controlling light. That's the big, or well, everything's a big deal, right? You know, on set, you got to pay attention. But one of the big elements of lighting is control of lighting, which means being able to light this, but not that. Having your light go where you want it to go instead of just exploding an umbrella in any old environment and watching, you know, it's like herding cats. You know, once you set off a flash, photons go everywhere. So corralling them and directing them, shaping them and making them talk in the way that you want them to talk, that's the deal, really. That's the deal.
Yeah, I mean, it has a natural feel to it because those windows actually do go like this. So those lights coming from the side are just mimicking what you cleaning up those 2 windows, and then you're sculpting out Lorena here, which is really great. I just thought it was super cool, and I always shoot into those windows, and I always tell them while we're shooting live, you don't want the light to light the curtains. You want the light from the back to come through the curtains, because once you light the curtain, you lose the day feel.
Oh, absolutely. It becomes electric.
Ooh,
so it has to feel natural.
It becomes electric.
Yeah, no, you know.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in this chat. Let's take a look really quick. Any tips on getting character mood out of a person?
Yeah, so, sometimes, oftentimes perhaps, I give somebody a role to play or something to think about. You know, if I'm working with a model, I'll tell them, oh, look out the window, like, you're, I don't know, you just read a romance novel or something like that, or look out the window in anger because you just were fired from your job. I mean, give them something to think about. Give them a role or a theme, or give them a quote out of literature. I photographed the original cast, producers, writer, and director of the Jersey Boys, you know, before it opened on Broadway. And these are like 8 guys. And they're all super smart, and they're all super funny. And if you don't present in a confident way to them, they're going to eat your lunch, okay? And so I worked with them a little bit, and then I said, all right, guys, last thing, I want you to walk towards the camera down the block. And I just let them, I said, give me Reservoir Dogs.
Nice.
And they immediately went into it. They were like, oh, yeah. And then they got attitude, you know? So you give them something to seize on, and it gets their mind off the fact that you're this jerk behind the camera, you know, quacking at them, you know.
Quacking. Yeah, well, I had you quack at me because I had to be a zombie for you.
You were a good zombie.
Oh, thanks,
you were very expressive. And I never knew that you could roll your eyes like that. That was like, you know, pretty good. Nice. A little bonus there. And then, of course, you know, Katrina Grieco did a fantastic job, as she always does. Super talented. You
mean my makeup artist that you lifted off of me? That one?
Basically, yes. No, I stole everything I know about SFX. I stole from Seth Miranda.
Please.
You know,
Please.
I'll admit it right now.
You've been shooting characters for longer than I've been alive.
But
See
yeah,
that
look at
foot
these
drag?
two.
So that foot drag, that's that little detail.
That is,
That's the
that
one.
is. Well, Seth said to me, he immediately went into character as a zombie, and he was bringing out nuances of zombie life that I didn't know existed. So.
Yeah, I mean, this was super fun. I mean, but just so you guys have context, though, Joe calls me and he goes, hey, you want to work grip? Cool. Next week goes by. Hey, Seth, instead of grip, you want to shoot BTS? Yeah. Another week goes by. Hey, Joe. Hey, Seth, you want to be a zombie groom for me? So no grip, no BTS? Don't worry about it. Just to be a zombie. I'm like, all right, Joe, I got you. I'll tell you, Joe McNally calls me at 3 in the morning. I've got a shovel. Don't worry, Joe. I got a shovel or a weird dumpster no one knows about. All right.
Awesome.
But this was, first of all, a very low pressure shoot. Although you were working against the clock because you wanted an outside shot in the graveyard, as well as all the inside stuff. So you did have a little bit of working against the clock on this one, but it was very relaxed. You had the whole bed and breakfast to work with. What made you pick which rooms? What made you map out? Were you like, what would I do when I shoot a wedding? Now let me apply it to a zombie.
Kind of. I felt like, okay, we made a major move here. We invested in owning this location, which is a beautiful location called the Fountain Inn in my hometown up in Connecticut, Ridgefield, Connecticut. And so once you make that, that old expression, in for a penny, in for a pound, like now you've done it. You bought the location, you've got the talent, everything's going. It's up to you now to wring as much of worth and value out of that in terms of pictures. So when I saw this big mirror, I was like, yes, I'm down. I have to do that. The bride will always check herself out in a full-length mirror. So that was one shot. I knew I wanted to get at least, kind of a minimum of 4 images, kind of the course of a wedding day. And of course, we pretty much did that. We did the formal bridal portrait. We did the bride looking in the mirror. We did the couple having fun in the graveyard.
My favorite, though, of this one shot of this series was this blitz right here on the door.
Yeah.
Gives it that weird, just that little bit of weird.
I looked at it and I thought, I could flag that and I could control it pretty easy because that's an Profode A10 back in there, and that's what's creating that backlight. But then I thought, nah, let it go. It looks strange.
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's very sci-fi, very poltergeist.
Absolutely. And then she's looking at herself in a kind of this poltergeist way in the mirror. And yeah, I just liked the shot. It came together pretty well.
Did you ever think to do some shutter drag during this for some of that ghosty stuff? Or was that too on the nose for ghosty stuff?
Yeah, I didn't see her moving too quickly. There was no room for her to move.
Got it.
So if the veil was a little more substantial, and maybe had an ability to sort of float, I could have maybe pulled it back. But I don't know. I felt like here I'm managing a reflection and managing an expression and managing very particular light because she's keyed. The background is
and that mirror is a nightmare.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it dominated the room. So I thought, I got enough on my plate. I got to keep moving fast.
And then this is where I got to actually come out on set, which was interesting.
Yeah, no, you were fantastic.
Well, what I don't think people realize that you lit outside the room. And you mentioned in the video, but I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, I was just trying to put a little additional pop off the ceiling because the ceiling in that room is so freaking beautiful. So, when you're presented with something like this, you really just want to go crazy and light the whole thing within moderation. You don't want to go off the deep end and before you know it, you got 10 lights up and you don't know what's going on. But certain salient points of background, foreground, if you can just nudge them a little bit with some flash, they really start to enhance the photograph or the ultimate feel that people might have in terms of connecting with that picture.
Yeah, with this one, what I really thought was cool wasn't so much like the lighting on us, but the tone you kept in the overall, can I get to a shot here? The tone, the whole tone, right? Yeah. That bronze, burnt sienna type.
So you can see on the ceiling, you can see on the ceiling there's gelled lights outside and they're warm tone. Now what's the giveaway? Is it logical? Not particularly, because you can see white light through the other windows. So is that necessarily logical to have kind of a sunset feel glimmering off the ceiling? Some folks could, have issues with that. That's okay. I just thought, go for it. The whole thing is fantastical, right? It's a piece of an imagination. Nothing is real about 2 zombies getting married. So, have some fun with it.
I look, I just look at an old man.
You look like a really, really old professor who's been kind of in the library for too long,
I felt like the Six Flags old guy from those commercials, but like I was surprised she made me a bald cap, but when I showed up, she was like, "You have a really nice faded haircut." I'm like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Well, I remember one time when you shot a portfolio for me, you told me that a zombie would never have a really clean haircut like that," and I was like, "Does this mean I'm getting a bald cap?" She's like, "It means you're getting a bald cap." So I'm like, it's just
Well, I had originally talked to Katrina. I said, bald cap is okay by me. You go the way you need to. Spike is all, Seth has got spike possible hair. Like if you did something up in here and did all sorts of like weird spikes and stuff, but she wanted to do the bald cap. So again, I mentioned it earlier today, when you're a makeup artist, someone as accomplished as Katrina says, I think this would be really cool. I basically say yes.
Yeah, you just lean on your you made your decision by hiring them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're the right person for the job. Rely on their expertise.
And then, of course, we got to go to the graveyard. This is where I think you were getting a little on the stress side because you were losing light fast.
Oh, we were losing light fast, and I needed to get back because I still wanted to do the nighttime where your bride comes to you on the wedding night.
That was your big one.
And that was, predictably, of course, always the last shot of the day is the most complex lighting-wise. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it was, it was pretty
fun.
rad. Yeah, it was
That's
fun. She's so ridiculous.
Marissa is just like the best talent. She's just, you say, hey, can you do this? She throws herself into it.
She jumps in with like her whole heart.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
A lot of fun to work with her. And it's just really weird to be on this side of things, if I just might say.
And there's the lighting. I mean, the lighting couldn't have been simpler, pretty much. There's a backlight behind the gravestone there, but basically the upfront light is just a big umbrella.
And then your big moment.
Well, it was about to be your big moment.
Oh, yeah. Well,
with your bride.
Yeah, well.
And you guys were kind enough to let me in the room to photograph that sense of intimacy. I really appreciate that.
It's a family.
Indicated that they
channel.
really trusted me as a photographer to observe them in the throes of their love.
Well, what was really interesting to this, someone actually mentioned to me, was it was like you split the room, like cold and warm.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I mean, again, is there a complete logic to this light? Not really. I'm just kind of like, yeah. I mean, again, I'll refer to Greg Heisler. Greg always said sometimes you light editorially because you want to be true to a story and make the lighting look real. Other times you just light it because it looks cool. And so I threw some lights up and tried to figure out what looks cool.
So we have a question in the chat. Joe, do you have a concept shoot that you haven't done since you have done so many shoots? Like, is there something that just hasn't happened yet?
Oh,
I'm sure that we all do. You got sketchbooks and notepads.
I got stuff that's like, it's like, bats in the belfry. They fly around in there at night, and then it's like, oh, why don't you get this one done?
Well, you know what it is? He opens up his notebook. He goes, I have no idea what I wrote at 1:30 in the morning when I was half awake, but I bet you it was really funny. I bet you it was really funny. I think that's kind of the most maddening part of it, is not coming up with the stuff, but when it hits you, you can't do it right there on the spot. It hits you in the weirdest moments, and you can't go get it done right away. Then you have to try to materialize it, and that's when you start doing Sophie's choice. Like, that's probably not going to happen. This is in the budget, but that's not.
Brutal.
Am I wrong though? Right? You totally start hacking away and refining it to what could actually be done, or and then I think the worst is, right, when you get a watered down version of what you wanted to do, and you knew if you just try it again you could, and that just eats you up a little bit because it's trying to do something twice. It's hard to have the same ambition twice.
Yeah, no, I have ideas that I've been rummaging around, and then I have ideas, as you say, they just didn't turn the corner. And you have to learn to move on. You really do. You can't just dwell on it, because it starts to eat away at what your potential imagination might be for the future. You don't want to dwell on past mistakes or naysayers. I mean, naysayers are everywhere. It's like, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, that's going to be a lot of money. Well, okay. All right. Let's see if we can figure it out.
Yeah. And this is kind of a testament to that. So forever and a day ago, Joe wanted to do Alien in a diner scene. And we thought we were walking into a set. And we all thought this. So we were walking into a set that was a full-on diner.
Right.
And it ended up being a booth.
A booth,
basically.
A booth. Yep.
a booth. And this video, I just remember because we were so like, we all walked in there like this with like our, like trying to figure out, well, what do we do from here? And I mean, you know, we went forward with it, and that was the whole set right there. That was, instead of this whole diner for you to play with, like the laundromat, let's say.
Yeah.
This is what we were looking at, which was very, I'd say 2D, very face forward, right?
Yep. And the background you see through the windows there is
a picture.
Just a picture. And yeah, the whole thing was a very truncated set, but we did well with it. We zeroed in, you know, like when you're dealt a curve like that, you say, okay, all right, let's shrink and redirect.
Yeah, and you just started hiding strobes everywhere like you normally do under the tables, which is an obvious choice, by the way, Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I don't want you to think so, you know, high of yourself there. But and
Mm.
here's another one where you really dialed in your key light almost like obsessively.
Yeah, I had to, because when you put up a softbox like that, you know, if you don't play it properly, it's going to kill all of the other very specific lighting effects that you created.
Yep.
You know, it's like, you know, it becomes the bull in the china shop, and it just breaks everything. So, yeah, so you have to really light it, use it because it's a nice light, but also control it so it doesn't migrate everywhere.
Look how many cameras ago this was.
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Is that a D4S or is that a D5?
You got me.
I mean, it's just amazing where we are, right? So how many years you've been, how many years you've been doing this with Dan? Dan's been next to you, you know, teaching here at Adorama proper. You've been doing all the workshops. It's just kind of nuts to think that not just the evolution of user photography, but where the gear has gone, right? Like the lights are smaller, more powerful. The grip becomes more sensible, right? Clamps that actually make sense finally, right?
Finally,
right?
Turning the corner.
And look, just one speed light to key up your female model right there.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's all you need. You know, it's just one little light to bring life to a face. And
she was great.
Yeah, she was terrific to work with. And beyond that, if you take it any further, you've done too much, right? You know, there's that point, you know, it's like you push it to a certain place. It's like a fill light. You know, the best definition of a fill light I've always heard is it's the best fill light is a light that is doing its job without you noticing it. The only way you notice a fill light is if you turn it off. If you start to notice it, it's no longer a fill light. You've overplayed it. It's the same thing here. You can't overplay the lights that you're using for your talent. They just have to kind of grace the set and let the other lights speak to the environment.
And a little inside info, that's Nick Knight under the alien makeup.
Yeah.
This is the first time Joe shot with him after you had me work a job in Connecticut with you shooting dancers, I remember.
Yep.
And he was playing like the casting agent or something like that.
Yes, yeah, he was getting all the dancers. He was not, the dancers were so confused because it would be like, you know, the music would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and Nick would be like 1,
yeah, he had no
2,
idea.
2, 3, and the dancers were like, "What do you want us to do?"
It was wild, and then I kept saying like, Joe, this guy, like I'm telling you, you could make this dude into a lot of FX makeups. Oh, look at this young guy. Look at
There
this.
he is.
Look
There
at all
he
the
is.
hope still in my face.
Yeah.
What happened?
It's still there. It's still there. It's underneath the grizzle and the beard.
So, and then there's Nick, and I'm really glad you pulled him. That was one of my other makeup artists.
Well, that was a great piece of advice because I would never have looked at Nick. You've got experience in SFX. I would never have looked at Nick and say, "Oh yeah, he's a perfect alien."
And he also just knew how to act too. Like, what would I do in a diner if I didn't know what a diner was?
He gets, you know, no matter how large or small, the thing I appreciate about Nick is he gets into his character.
Yeah, that's. I feel like you can only go so far with the shot until it's up to the subject to really take it across. You know, I think a lot of people always think like it's all on us to get and yeah, you can get an elevated version, but they still have to be a part of it. They still have to be the presence.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, Nick, you just love working with him because he takes things seriously. You know, pouring ketchup in the coffee, you know, stuff like that.
Oh my God,
so much fun.
That was an expensive face too. You know.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think people realize how much FX makeups cost, but like you're looking at like 3 to 5 grand sometimes, you know, and it's just, and people go like, what? And then why wouldn't you just CGI it? Well, then look at the bill for someone to sit there and draw it from scratch and then texturize it. It's just crazy that this is what the set was when we walked in there thinking we got a whole diner to mess with, and it was just this one booth. Yeah. Amazing. But look how you built it, right? Light by light by light.
Yeah.
And then you guys got that milkshakes after. Look at you.
Yeah, no, the milkshakes were excellent.
But speaking of the gear changing, when we went from the DSLR here, the flagship Nikon, you got into it with the new Z9, right? So this is on Nikon's channel, not our channel, but man, did you go to town with this? And let me tell you something. They handed us prototypes of the Z9, and they had to shake them off before they gave them to me and Fernando. They were covered in dirt, sand, mud. I was like, did McNally have these first? Is that who got these units before us? And he's like, yeah, well, maybe. And then we found out what you did with them.
Yeah, no, 2 of them were bolted to this high-speed car in the desert, and when they came back, right from the very first run, they were just blanketed in dust. Thankfully, we had Nikon personnel on the set with us, and Atsushi is wonderful, and he was able to, he's one of the engineers, so he was able to, he didn't take the cameras apart, but he cleaned them up, you know, as effectively as he could. That was the dust cloud, you know, and then smoke, and you know, good Lord, I mean, there's everything you could throw at this picture: smoke and fire and sun, sand, speed.
It's also crazy that you know people like this.
Well, Ed's great. Ed's great. We worked with him 10 years ago or so, and he's just big, wonderful guy, you know, loves to drive fast, and he's up for ideas. He's up for having some fun. And of course, too, yeah, this particular car is his baby. I mean, he built that car, you know. That's a labor of love right there.
Oh my gosh, I wonder who's got Joe's Z9 after it's caked in mud.
Not my problem, Marcus.
Well, you know what's crazy? A little like BTS for you guys. Like when there's prototypes out there, a lot of top tier brands like Nikon will actually disassemble all the ones that come back just to make sure what happened, all the diagnostics, black box that I call it. And they just make sure that they did what they were expected to do. And to me, for some prototypes, they've taken my files before I could use them, and they run through every pixel to make sure everything was mapped perfect.
Yes, I mean, prototypes are just that. They're not finished. So when you take them out in the field prior to production line cameras being available, you are kind of throwing your hands in the air and saying, okay, you know, I hope most of the camera works.
It's true.
Because you're just not sure. And there are prototypes that are really far into development, and sometimes you get a prototype that's still short on their firmware run, you know, so you just have to, that's where you have to rely on your experience in the field to sort of shore things up. And we were lucky. The Z9 prototypes that I were in pretty good working order.
They were pretty far along. It was at version 1, which means finished, not finished firmware, but it's basically where the firmware is supposed to be.
Yep.
We've both definitely gotten cameras where the firmware is 0.3, and you're like, this is going to be an interesting day.
Yeah. I took prototype D4s into a swamp.
This is how you start a story. I took prototype D4s into a swamp.
Oh my God. And these cameras, the D4 ultimately became a great camera, but its prototype version that I had to shoot with was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. But those are challenges you meet and you face along the way.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the far greater challenge on that shoot, and, you know, I just seen Lord of the Rings too many times. And, you know, so we wanted a lady in a boat in like a swamp with fog, you know. So we literally have generators, fans, smoke machines, lights, like in 3 feet of swamp water, alligators, water moccasins, water so dank and so disgusting that, you know, 10 showers, you don't even feel clean, you know, afterwards. Oh, man. But we got a decent picture out of it.
Man,
you know?
if I got a chance to do that, I would have shot a Mucklebones Meg. Do you know what Mucklebones Meg is?
No.
Do you ever see the movie Legend?
Yeah, a long time. Tom Cruise?
Yeah, the swamp witch that comes out of the water for like a split scene.
Okay, yeah, vaguely. It's been a long time since.
Never got to shoot a Mucklebones. She's a prized like concept by a lot of artists. I would kill to shoot a Mucklebones Meg in a swamp.
Yeah, I've always loved swamps. I think ever since I saw Martin Sheen come out of the water in Apocalypse Now,
Oh, geez.
I've always loved the idea of a half submerged,
Totally.
kind of face or character as something that, I once suggested through an agent to Sigourney Weaver after she did Alien that she go into, I was at Life at the time, go into one of the swamps out in New Jersey near the oil refineries,
Oh, nice.
and my editor at Life looked and said, you just dreamed that up right now? I said, yeah, isn't it obvious? And unfortunately, Sigourney Weaver didn't feel it was obvious, so evidently, so that's okay.
I mean, I feel like you and me, if we have any common point aside from using 1,000 lights at a time, it's we both feed off of this cinematic route, and I shoot cinematic in a single frame because I'm too lazy to do a full film. But I feel like we both get that inspiration of the entire narrative before and after that frame.
Yeah, I agree. Movies are a big influence with me. I also went to 5 different grammar schools, so I was always the new kid, So I found myself, I would get lost in my own fantasy world when I was a kid, and I grew up on epics, and adventure tales, Jack London, White Fang, Lord of the Rings, all these
You're a
fantasy
Conan
kinds of,
guy, right?
Conan,
I knew it.
Frank Frazetta, Frank Frazetta he's gone now, but he was an amazing artist, and he's on Instagram. His daughters, it's called Frazetta Girls, and they keep Frank's artwork alive, and some of it's very erotic and very kind of like half naked warrior women fighting off a 40-foot cobra or a giant
So what you would
leopard.
paint on the side of a van in 1988.
Yeah. But he also drew the Conan comics and several others that were just really wonderful storytelling. Comic books are wonderful storytelling devices, because they move you from panel to panel. And I know that's in my work now, because oftentimes as I look at my work, there's a hero point of view, there's a strong color palette, kind of low angle camera, looming figures, this and that. I know that kind of, early sort of upbringing and whatnot fed into the way I shoot.
Well, I see it in your work from two things. One, lately you've been shooting very 2D flat plane, and two, you have kind of a color block thing going on, which is almost how you would print a comic book for color printing. So I always see that in your work. And then, you do the epic dynamic light with the edge and all that stuff. But that's how I see that stuff come from. I mean, listen, I got Venom and Carnage tattooed on my ribs. Like I come from that whole reading those comic books and feeling it. But it does make sense when you're telling the story with a frozen image and you just happen to be reading it. The only difference to what we're doing, or you rather, or whatever, is there's nothing to read except the image. So your words are those choices in the frame.
Absolutely. I mean, as a photographer, you get one crack to interest your reader, so you have to grab them.
Cool. My son wants comic books for Christmas. What would be Joe's choice of comics for a 10-year-old?
Wow. I'm not so much up on what's hip right now, because I don't really keep.
You didn't want hip. You wanted Joe's picks.
But yeah, I always tended towards Marvel, because their characters were more complex personally. Peter Parker, Hulk, etc., always had personal drama woven into this, tremendous, beast of a character or supernatural character. The DC universe, with Superman and Wonder Woman, I gravitated to far less. I thought the artwork was better in Marvel. Again, Frazetta and the Conan, comic books that were really, really strongly drawn. I really liked those a lot. There was an open, more clean palette to the DC books. Marvel tended to be a little darker, and some of their characters were darker too. So I mean, I still like some really dark stuff like Spawn.
Spawn is great. Frank Miller's Daredevil was
Frank Miller yeah. And then I was so happy when Frank Miller's artwork came to the fore with Sin City.
Right.
And the Sin City graphic novel transposed into a movie, and the fact that it was a movie, but they were also very much like storyboards, for the movie, right? And the selective use of color, which you know, sometimes, you know, I view that and I think, well, it's kind of cheesy. But in that movie, I thought the selective use of color was really done well.
It was page for page, the books. I
Yeah.
mean, they really went right to it. Same thing with Watchmen. It was like page for page.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, it was the character in Watchmen. It was played by a wonderful actor who, for many years ago, was in that bike movie. You know,
Bike
with
movie.
Dennis Quaid.
What, Quicksilver?
Indiana. It was set in Indiana. It was a race. I'm losing my memory for all of this stuff that's chock-a-block in there. But Jackie Haley.
Okay.
Jackie Earl Haley played the Rorschach
Yep.
character, and he was great in that. He was absolutely great when he was in jail, you know, and they're trying to get to him, and he says, "You're just lucky I'm in here and you're out there," you know, just
He
freaking
played
love
Freddy Krueger after that. He did in the remake. They want to know, did you ever study or do cinematography? I know you're directing video now, but did you ever actually study cinematography?
No, never did. Never did. You know, I was kind of minted as a newspaper photographer when I came out of school. Syracuse University has a great photojournalism program, and at that point in time, the newspaper industry was very viable, and a very good step for you to take would be, as you left school, try to get a job at a newspaper, however big or small, because newspaper work teaches you how to be versatile, resilient, durable, and it also teaches you how to be a good storyteller and do it quick. So you could do, as a newspaper shooter, you could do 5 assignments in one day. You know, the photo assignment, that's like a taxi dispatcher, you know, get me this, fire uptown, check it out, you know, this and that, you know, then you'd be sent down to the Waldorf to shoot, you know, an opening, you know, or something like that, or some big show. And then you'd be sent out to Queens to do the aftermath of a crime scene or whatever it might be. So you had to constantly just keep adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. And then that night, you know, you'd be at Madison Square Garden for, you know, a Rangers game.
And then you go home schizophrenic.
And then you just go crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I think I've told you this, and you probably know from the last time. Cliff Hausner.
Yeah, no Cliff.
Of Pro Photo. But you know, as a copy boy, I used to run his dad's film.
That's so bizarre. It's crazy how how many legacies exist in this industry.
Yeah.
Like everyone's always talking about someone's father or mother or something like that. It's just so wild.
Eddie Hausner was a terrific newspaper photographer for the New York Times, and because the Daily News, where I worked, had a larger fleet of radio cars, they would send a copy boy, which I was, over to the garden to pick up bags of film. And then Eddie would give me $1 or $2 and say, on your way back to the news, drop this for me, will you, kid? He was always very nice.
Yeah.
And that's a mark of a very confident photographer and a decent person, obviously. But, you know, some of those guys were so competitive, they wouldn't give you the time of day.
Right.
But Eddie wasn't like that at all.
Well, Cliff always told me that his father could eyeball an exposure for ISO 400 anywhere.
At 65,
I mean, that's amazing.
You know, I mean, after I lost all my cameras, my place was broken into. The Daily News chipped in, the photo staff, because I lost my dad the same week I lost all my cameras. This was 1977. I came into work. I had 3 days of union allotted bereavement. And I came back in, and there was an envelope of $500 in cash, and I bought a Leica M4 and a 35 millimeter Summicron.
A $500 Leica.
Yeah. I still have it. But I didn't have money for a meter.
Right.
But Jimmy McGrath, God rest him, you know, he died way too young. Wonderful photographer, good friend. He used to make another order when the photographers were ordering film and Triax. He would cop me a brick of Triax.
That's sick.
Because I didn't have any money, but I didn't have money for a meter, so I'd just be like, you know, 60th, I don't know, 400. This is going to be maybe 4 across the streets in shadow. That's going to be 2.8, and you got your eyes dialed in.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know.
That's wild. I used to sell parts off my bike in Union Square to Ford Film to hopefully get another page in that magazine so I could then buy my parts back. It's
amazing.
crazy.
It's amazing. Somebody was talking to me. I've had 3 600 f4s in my career.
Those are pawn shop lenses.
I sold them all basically to pay the rent. You know, at a certain point in time, I just had to dump that lens. That was the primo lens, you know, because I had a contract with Sports Illustrated for about 8 years, and 600 f4 was the the lens, you know. And now, of course, that lens, 604 is maybe 12, 13, $14,000. And I sold all three of them basically to make the rent,
It's wild.
you know.
What do you think would have been different if you had to do those 5 assignments a day, today with the equipment you have now? You don't have to worry about the film. You know, you're running digital. You're dealing with like extremely crazy autofocus now and more dynamic range and all this craziness. How do you think it would have gone different for you?
Well, the equipment is astonishing. It's a miracle, absolutely. But it's also thrown a tremendous amount of responsibility back on the photographer.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Because, you know, I have a tremendous amount of respect for good newspaper photographers. They're amazing. They have to be on top of it all the time. But if you're out in the traffic of New York, say, and you're in a radio car or whatever it is, those days are kind of over. But, you know, you got to shoot the job. From your car, you got to edit the job, and you got to transmit. You know, none of this division of labor where you had physical object of film in a bag that had to get back to the lab, get processed, get picked,
Yep.
get printed, go to the newsroom, get captioned, and then find its way into the paper. That was a multi-hour process, you know, oftentimes. And I feel badly, you know, because of that digital transmission. I had an assistant I had at one point, you know, she was looking for internships, and I said, get an internship in a newspaper. And she got one. She got one in the Seattle Times. But she came back after the end of the summer, and she said, I hardly met anybody on the staff because nobody came into a wet darkroom anymore.
Wow, wild.
So they all transmitted from remote locations. She didn't meet most of the staff.
Right.
Back in the day, and this sounds like old war stories, I apologize, but you know, photographers would gather at the end of the day. You'd have to process film. They'd give each other grief. They'd go out for beers. And as a young photographer, you could pick up on stuff.
See, this is why I feel like you've been doing a lot of films. I feel like you need to make that film. I feel like you need, from a guy who lived through it and came up through it, make the film about those photographers that you keep on leaving those names every time we go live to make sure people remember them. I feel like you should do that film.
It would be a fun thing to do. You know, it'd be a labor of love, to be sure. You know, but and that's why I really respect somebody here with me, Seth, because even at a young age, he firmly believes in mentoring. And I was very lucky. I had great mentors at various points in my career. And that's essentially what he's doing right now on AdoramaTV, is he's mentoring, you know, and that's always been a component of this business.
Yes.
And it's a pass it along business. I always say this, you know, I don't think they get together on Wall Street and share their secrets. But that's what we do in this industry. We share our secrets. Not that there are any secrets. The secret is to work hard and keep trying to get better. That's the only secret to this business.
I mean, I mean, I feel like you feel it, but like I feel so indebted because I wanted to do this. It was hell in the beginning, like real hell. But the guys I learned under, the guys I lugged those 4x5 cameras for and set those lights for and used their different systems to learn what everything else and how it works and pick up those weird little tricks, how to properly use C-stands without killing someone. We take it for granted. A lot of people just grab the gear and go and try to figure something out off of YouTube and Instagram. But like, I remember being sat down after sweating to death and like having guys like show me their lighting diagram and why they chose that instead of this. And when I asked the question, it took a month for them to answer me because I didn't get there for them yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to get to a point where they felt like I could talk to them.
Sure.
And I just feel like I owe so much to these guys who, most of which I think 9 out of 10 of the guys I assisted are no longer with us on this planet.
Yeah.
And their legacy means nothing because no one knows the names and the gear's out there in some used pile. But like I feel like I that's lost. Like this whole like assisting for years thing is lost, which isn't a bad thing. But you have to kind of want to learn proper and find the people to learn from properly.
Sure. Yeah, no, and it's also a way. I have a chapter in my new book. It's called Making Pictures, Making Friends. And I just have this chapter devoted to a couple of people I've photographed repeatedly throughout the years and have remained my friends for 30, 40 years. And that's, to me, has always been what this business is about, is relationships. When I joined the Daily News as a copy boy, they knew I was interested in photography. So the Daily News had the Sunday magazine, the Rotogravure Sunday magazine. And Kenny Karat, they had their own separate staff. And Kenny Karat went out and he needed help. So I went out and helped him. It was the first job I ever assisted anybody on, you know, and KK was great, you know, and just a kind of this unassuming guy, you know. I tried to help him as best I could. I didn't know what I was doing. All these years later, I'm talking 40 years, I'm lecturing at CES in Las Vegas, and I look over in the corner of the crowd, and there's Kenny, like 85 years old. And he's now passed on. You know who came to the last show I was in? Both of his sons.
Wow.
You know? So that to me is indicative of the real human blood that flows through this picture making business, if you want to call it that. You know, it's you know, we get frustrated with it. It's dollars and cents, cameras and technology, pixels and this and that. But at the end of the day, it's the pictures you make and the heart you leave out there, you know. Yeah, you know, there's no, Eddie Adams said it maybe best. The best pictures are the ones that reach inside your rib cage and rip your heart out, which is not particularly pleasant analogy, but it's true. Good pictures get your attention.
Yeah, and I think every good image, you don't think about how noisy it was because the image was that, like, if people are worried about how noisy it was, how sharp something was, they're not really connected to the image they're connected to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a question up here.
A lot of questions. Oh boy, do you have doesn't the US have a dedicated photographer's school? There's a few photography schools in the.
Yeah, they've fallen on hard times though. Brooks is pretty much, I think, gone. Hallmark is gone. There are photographic sequences associated with universities and colleges, to be sure. There's plenty of those still.
Yeah, if you guys have any last questions, let us know. We're at the hour. You believe that was an hour?
Jeez.
Yeah, we burned through time.
Yep.
Listen, if you haven't checked it out, Joe McNally has a 72 video playlist. I didn't realize he had that many. 72 video playlist right here on this channel. And check out the link below. He's got the Real Deal book he's putting out there. It's in pre-order.
Yes, the physical book will be available in January. Global supply chain has got it kind of wrapped up, as so many things are. And but it's fun. It's like a country road. It's a meander through a photographic life.
I feel like that's all your books.
A little bit, yeah. Well, I don't think logically.
My favorite is still Sketching Light. That is like, I could read that book all the time. I love it.
I think you'll like The Real Deal.
So he's trying to sell me one. You see this guy?
Yeah,
Doesn't stop. Doesn't stop.
No, I'll sign it for you.
Oh, you signed all my books for me. Do you remember the time I gave you a silver Sharpie? Do you remember what you said to me?
Yes.
Wow. He was like, first of all, it was one of the first books I got you signed, which is Hot Shoe Diaries. I hand you a silver pen because you use them on black gaff tape.
Right.
So I handed it to you, and you're like, I don't got a dark page. He says to me, I'm like, just sign it, man. That was so bizarre. Now that Hot Shoe Diaries is like on its last legs. There's so much tape holding that thing together. I can't even tell you, Joe.
I owe you another one.
Oh, please.
What does Joe order on his pizza?
Oh boy, what do you order? What are you, pizza guy?
I like a lot of different stuff. I stay away from, you know, pineapples and stuff like that. I'm kind of traditional. Mozzarella, tomatoes, you know, roasted red peppers. You know, those are the, like, maybe the main go-tos. You know,
ever try spicy honey? You ever try that?
Never tried spicy honey. God
You'd be
forbid.
shocked. You'd be shocked.
God
Listen,
forbid.
I'm born and raised Brooklyn. I'm telling you, it's all right.
Really? All right. All right. All right.
But when will the alien meet the ballerina? An alien ballerina would be pretty baller to shoot.
That's a good idea. Maybe. You never know. See, the beautiful thing about the Point You Mysteries is I'm sort of kind of the director. So, I don't know. It's the movie, so you can do anything you want. I've had Erica. Erica has been dead twice. Once in a dryer in a laundromat, once in a garbage can on 6th Avenue. So, yeah, I mean, in the science fiction realm of films, people come back to life all the time, so it's fun.
This is a good question. How does Joe work through his shoots? How does he pick out and articulate what he wants to get out of a shoot?
Hey, Marcus. Good question. I mean, sometimes, you know, let's be cut and dried here. Sometimes it's all about the client. Client will come to you. They're paying you money. They give you a storyboard. They want the shoot to go here. So you're like, okay, you're paying the bill. That's what I'll do. You know, other shoots that come out of your own heart and mind, that's more difficult in a way to wrestle with, to kind of find that, you know, what you want from that. So I am pretty narrative based in the sense that I like For instance, I'm not a good street shooter. I enjoy it, but I don't do it very well where you just wander the streets looking for photographs. You know, it's fun to do. I've done it lots, just not very good at it. I need a purpose. I need a direction. I need a narrative. So I try to conjure that in my head before I take camera in hand. So to a degree, I'm pre-visualizing in lots of ways, not necessarily taking it all the way to a storyboard, but I do measure a pre-visualization, especially in the commercial realm, because if you go out there on a commercial job, you're automatically spending lots of money, you know, or relatively lots of money, because there's permits and releases and crew and travel and all that sort of stuff. So you better be very confident in your ideas and have a good sense of where you want to go beforehand, you know, and also be prepared for happenstance, because that always goes on.
Do you have a shot that got away? Do you have one that like just didn't happen or didn't get to get finished?
Yeah.
You think about it all the time?
Sure. Yeah, there were things I look now and like, you know, I mean, I'm pretty self-critical when I come back from something. It's like, yeah, I thought I had this dialed in. I thought it was a good idea, and it's like, I'm never going to show that. I'm never going to show it, you know. But the best, you know, way that, or when I know I'm like cooking and things, it's when pictures are lining up in accordance with what I imagine they should be. And that becomes a good day in the field.
Yeah. No, I definitely have some I stay awake on. I'm like,
oh yeah, no.
Think about it. All right, guys, we're at the hour. I think we're gonna call it on this one. If you guys are watching this post live, drop a comment down below. I'll try to answer whatever I can for you. Maybe Joe will pop in those comments once in a while, say what's up. Hit like if you haven't already. It definitely helps out this channel. Helps out Joe. He needs all the help he can get. Look at this guy. Look at him.
Yeah. Ronald, yes, thanks. I like the garage guys too. That was fun.
The garage guys are cool, yeah.
Yeah, and that came to me out of just wanting, like, I just kind of popped and I said, I want to do this crazy guy, and I'd love to have him holding 2 oxyacetylene torches.
That was cool.
That was where it went to. And I will not be going to the Winter Games, no.
No, huh?
No, I think it's just really, really risky to work in China.
Yeah, I get you.
You know,
I'm super curious from a pure gear nerd standpoint what the Winter Olympics is going to be like with all the brands having flagships on those lines now.
Yeah.
So curious.
Yep.
But is what it is.
Same back, Gilbert.
So check out the link below for Joe's new book, The Real Deal, and check out his other books if you haven't. Sketching with Light, or Sketching Light, or Sketching with Light? Sketching Light.
Sketching Light.
Sketching Light is like the best photo book ever, and I'm not just saying that because he's standing next to me. I love that book so much. I have it digital and hard copy. It's great.
Nice.
And if anyone ever asks me what book they should get, I always tell them that. And Hot Shoe Diaries is great if you're a speedlight shooter, but I will say I think that needs a little bit of updating.
Oh yeah, no, that's old school technology now. I wrote it back in the days we were all shooting line of sight.
Yeah, and it was like just when TTL was getting
just about getting good.
Yeah,
just about getting good. But now, you know, even as you write something, technology is almost moving faster than you can write.
I know.
You know,
if you wrote before the Z9, I think you'd have a different book after you get the Z9 next year.
It could well be. I mean,
it's just wild what you can do, man.
I mean, gosh, it's a beast. The thing is a beast.
120 frames a second. You're going to be doing all sorts of stuffs.
Yeah, time for more hard drives.
Yeah, that's true. Guys, thank you so much. If I don't hear from you, have a great holiday season and a happy new year. Follow this guy at Joe McNally Photo. He's an up-and-coming aspiring photographer. We wish him best of lucks out there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Hit
Thank
like,
you guys.
Hit subscribe, plus the bell to get notified when stuff like this happens. It happens on the fly. And we'll see you soon, guys. Later.
Be good, man. Thank you.